What is at the core of the Earth? With the many exploits humans have recorded in space, you may think what is at the center of the Earth is a known and concluded fact. But you can't be more wrong because scientists are still making discoveries about what lies under our feet that are amazing. Some of them are downright terrifying, like the recent discoveries scientists just announced that changed the way we look at the core of the Earth. What have scientists discovered? Why is it causing lots of panic? And can you be affected where you live? Keep watching as we bring you the latest terrifying discovery inside the Earth's core that changes everything. If you take the Earth apart, what will you find in the innermost part? The answer is mystery. After sending billions of dollars worth of spacecraft to study other planets and terrestrial bodies, the new discovery scientists have made about the Earth's core is like discovering a hidden room inside a house that you have lived inside for a century. What is more, it may be time to rewrite geography textbooks to reflect these new discoveries that change everything we have known about our planet. Scientists discovered a whole new layer of the Earth's crust that we never knew existed. Studying the Earth's crust is no mean feat. The trouble is that the Earth's core is impossible to drill deeper than a few miles beneath the surface, so scientists had to improvise. Instead of digging, they used the study of earthquake waves as they move through the body of the Earth to see what the interior of the Earth and its cores look like. Scientists, as early as the 1890s, believed there was a core inside the Earth because of our planet's gravity and the way it responds to the sun and moon. However, it was not until 1906 that Richard Dixon actually discovered the core of the Earth. How did he do this? He worked out that earthquake waves moved much slower through the center of the Earth than in other parts. Years later, Benno Gutenberg, a German-American seismologist, began studying earthquake wave patterns after large earthquakes occurred as the waves moved through the Earth. He theorized that the Earth must contain layers of different types of rock inside the Earth. But before this, scientists believed that inside the Earth, the planet was made of a uniform type of rock that increased in density as the depth increased. He found that S waves did not penetrate the core, which means they must be liquid because they only travel through solid rock. The P waves moved through the Earth's core but were deflected at the boundary of the core. But what about the inner core? That was left to Gutenberg to continue working on, and he eventually calculated that the mantle ended at 2,900 kilometers or 1,800 miles beneath the Earth's surface. This formed the boundary with the molten core. This boundary is now called the Gutenberg discontinuity. The solid inner core was discovered by Inga Lehman, who was studying P waves as they travel through the Earth. She discovered they increased in speed at a boundary within the Earth's core. The boundary between the inner and outer core is the Lehman discontinuity. The inner core's radius is approximately 1,220 kilometers or 758 miles. So basically, scientists have been telling us the Earth had four primary layers: the crust, the mantle, the outer core, and the inner core. But now a new layer has sneaked into the picture. The new layer is found within the inner core. New research carried out by scientists at the Australian National University in Canberra shows the precise nature of this layer is mysterious, but it could have something to do with changes in the structure of iron under extreme temperatures and pressure. The study reveals that there is more complexity to the inner core than previously known. Scientists began to suspect that something was different at the very center of the inner core starting from the early 2000s. This was because at this depth deep within the planet, the anisotropic data seemed not to match that of the rest of the inner core. To find out what was going on, the scientists assembled a huge collection of a dataset of about 100,000 earthquake waves that passed through the Earth at the level of the core. The team then used an algorithm that searches for the best physical explanation of the phenomenon to tackle the data. What did they find? They discovered that in the inner core, starting about 400 miles or 650 kilometers from the center of Earth, the anisotropy in the flow direction isn't quite parallel with the equator anymore, but 54 degrees off. That was how far they could go, and they couldn't explain what it was. So they are now collaborating with mineral physicists and geodynamics to produce models of the inner core that would explain this change. As the planet cools, the inner core is cooling and expanding, so the inner core structure could have something to do with the way iron crystallizes as it cools, or it could be due to changes in the way the metal behaves at great temperatures and pressures. Meanwhile, imaging the core is complex. This is in part due to the fact that the deep earthquakes that scientists use for imaging don't occur evenly across the globe. so this patchy dataset creates blind spots. But seismologists and geophysicists are finding out ways to extract subtle types of earthquake waves called exotic phases that have passed through the inner core. When studying a single earthquake, the phases are usually too subtle to make out from a single earthquake, but scientists can detect them when working with large datasets comprising thousands of earthquakes. But why is it important for us to understand the core of the Earth? The core's swirling interactions create Earth's magnetic field. The magnetic field, in turn, shields the planet from charged particles streaming from the Sun. This protection enabled the evolution of life. Meanwhile, other findings are proving there is still a lot to learn about what lies at the core of the Earth. For instance, scientists are now saying the Earth's core may be cooling faster than we ever thought. Yes, the core of the Earth has been cooling since the planet was formed some 4.5 billion years ago. This may be hard to imagine, but when the Earth was formed, its surface was covered in an ocean of scalding magma. The discovery of the rate of cooling of the Earth's core was made by researchers collaborating from Switzerland, Germany, the US, and Japan. It adds to evidence that radiation plays a bigger role in heat extraction from the Earth's core than we once believed. The core mantle boundary lies between the Earth's lower mantle and its liquid core. Scientists believe it is largely composed of a mineral called bridgmanite, characterized and named after physicist Percy Bridgman. This bridgmanite is the most abundant mineral on Earth. What is happening is that the previous thermal conductivity value of bridgmanite was highly underestimated. In fact, the thermal conductivity was discovered to be 1.5 times higher than expected. The heat transfer from the core would go more efficiently than previously thought, which ultimately leads to the cooling of the core more rapidly than expected. Of course, it is impossible to get to bridgmanite to study it, so the scientists settled for geophysical studies and experiments that simulate the conditions found in the core of the Earth. The team synthesized the mineral bridgmanite by making it by themselves in the lab, using a diamond anvil cell that can fit in your hand. A mineral sample is placed in a tiny chamber where it's compressed by diamond walls from all sides. The sample is heated by a laser that shines through the diamond. This produces tiny rock samples that are equivalent to those in the deep Earth. But why is this study and the result important? Well, our understanding has been that radiation does not contribute significantly to heat transport anywhere on the solid Earth. However, this study confirms previous studies that radiation can enhance heat extraction from the core to the mantle by approximately 50%, which speeds up heat loss from the entire Earth. What else have scientists discovered in the Earth's crust that challenges decades-old understanding of the center of the Earth? Well, Earth's solid inner core may not be so solid after all. What will you find there? This earth-shattering discovery was made by scientists Rhett Butler at the University of Hawaii and Seiji Tsuboi, a research scientist at the Japan Agency for Marine Earth Science and Technology. They used data obtained from seismometers directly opposite the location where earthquakes occurred. They used Japan's Earth Simulator supercomputer to assess 5 pairings to broadly cover the inner core region: Tonga and Algeria, Indonesia and Brazil, and 3 between Chile and China. The duo's model suggests there are adjacent regions of hard, soft, and liquid or mushy iron alloys in the top 150 miles of the inner core. This is in stark contrast to the homogeneous soft iron alloys considered in all Earth models of the inner core since the 1970s. The researchers said this discovery of the inner core's diverse structure could offer important new information about the dynamics at the boundary between the inner and outer core, which impact the Earth's magnetic field. Knowledge of this boundary condition from seismology may enable better, predictive models of the geomagnetic field that shields and protects life on our planet. The next thing for researchers is to model the inner core structure in more detail using the Earth Simulator supercomputer so they can see how it compares with various characteristics of Earth's geomagnetic field. Let's hear what you think of the Earth's core in the comments section below.